आज हमारे शो में we have two very interesting people who will share their views with us on this issue. Our first guest is the man with a Lakshya. Please join me in welcoming Farhan Akhtar.
Hi.
Farhan, welcome to the show. So good to have you. So many things to discuss with you.
Yeah.
फरहान, you come from such an illustrious background. आपके पिता जावेद अख्तर जी जो है वो एक बेहतरीन लेखक हैं, वो एक गीतकार हैं. Your mother Hani Irani, she is a writer, she's also a director. Which set of genes has dominated you the most?
मुझे लगता है कि जो इन्फ्लुएंस है जेनेटिकली अगर आप पूछें
जी.
तो दोनों साइड से है क्योंकि आई एम 50% माय फादर एंड 50% माय मदर. मगर दोनों के ही जो क्रिएटिव टैलेंट्स है बोथ लाई इन राइटिंग. माय फादर्स राइटर, माय मदर्स राइटर. सो आई थिंक ये पिक करना कि उनमें से किनका ज़्यादा प्रभाव असर है मुश्किल है कहना. आई थिंक इट्स अ कॉम्बिनेशन ऑफ बोथ.
And what age were you when the two of them got divorced?
It's a bit distant in my memory now, but I think I was 8 or 9 years old.
That's a very impressionable age because at that point you're very aware of what's going on. You've had a certain set idea of what family life should be. So what was your reaction to it? How was it put across to you?
मुझे याद है my mother, I was with her in Bangalore at the time when I think when she and my father had spoken that they had decided that they were going to go their separate ways. We went Bangalore. She was with a friend of hers at the time, and Zoya and me went to meet her there. And that's when she told us that most probably she and Javed, as she calls him, and my father, are going to be separating. And she said that she has taken it, she has understood that it's something that they need to do, so we should not feel that it's because of us or that we are in any way to feel responsible for something like this happening.
Does that often happen to children you think feel responsible for their parents splitting up?
मुझे लगता है कि it's very easy for children who are especially at an impressionable age to blame themselves. ये सोचना कि ये जो problems मेरे parents के बीच में हो रहा है हमारी वजह से तो नहीं है क्योंकि अगर information उनको आप नहीं देंगे कि सच्चाई क्या है then as a child you start assuming the worst really.
And what was your reaction to it when she told you?
I was too small really to realize the implications of it at that point. Also, I think for me and for Zoya, I think I can speak for her as well on this. The time that we got to spend with our father during that period of his life was not that much. He was extremely busy at that point. जब Zoya पैदा हुई थी तो Zanjeer had released. When I was born, Diwar had released. So you can imagine what the time was like. It wasn't that much of a change on that level. That oh God, now I'm not going to see my dad for 3 days in a row or something because I knew, we all knew that he was very busy.
Was it an amicable divorce?
I don't think any divorce really can be painless. I think when you spend so much time with somebody, when that person is so dependent on you, and to a certain extent you're dependent on them. Plus then you have kids in the equation who really are people who are there, and the people that they look up to are their parents. Right. And the people that they want to be like at that age at least are their parents. Then we all go through teenage years and want to be rock stars.
But then at some point you kind of realize, महसूस होता है कि other children have their parents together, they come for functions together, they do everything together. My parents are not like that. Was there any resentment or any questions?
Actually, my mom was very clear in terms of what was going on in her, because also I was staying with her. Both Zoya and me lived with her, तो हमेशा वो हमें बताती थी कि उनकी ज़िंदगी में क्या हो रहा है, what she was feeling. So she always told us. And of course, definitely, both Zoya and me could notice that for a long period of time, that she was pretty low about what had happened. She was sad about what had happened. I think so was my dad, but because I was living with my mom, I could see it every day. I definitely did want to speak to my dad at some day and ask him, and I did speak to him many years later actually.
How many years later?
I think when I was maybe 17 or 18.
Oh, those many years later?
Yeah, really, like a really long time later.
What'd you say?
No, I just asked him, I said, I just want to know from your point of view what happened, and I'd just like to know. And he did tell me like basically like how it wasn't working on it. Sometimes it's better to like let things be as opposed to get at each other's throat. I think again from both my mom and my dad, there's still a lot that I don't know, you know, and I think somewhere it's not my business to keep wanting to know. I think it's their life, and
everyone's the happier for it today.
Yeah, I mean, they're great friends. I think the relationship that Zoya and me have with my dad right now is a lot better than we had when before they separated. Really, I mean, I spend a lot more time with him now than I did earlier, and so do my mum and he. I mean, they're really good friends. They're always there for each other. So
Farhan, that's the
something.
case of your family and my family too. I mean, our parents went their separate ways. We seem to have turned out all right and taken it in our stride. Well, we'll discuss that later.
Yeah.
But there are different perspectives to this issue. Let's take a look.
Sure.
मुझे याद है मैं 10-11 साल का था जब मेरे माँ बाप का तलाक हो गया। मैं जब भी घर वापस आता था तो देखता था कि मेरे माँ बाप हमेशा लड़ते झगड़ते रहते थे और इससे मेरे पढ़ाई पे भी काफ़ी ज़्यादा असर होने लगा। मैं फेल होने लगा।
When my parents got divorced, they put me in a boarding school, and I really hated it. First of all, I didn't want to be away from them, and secondly, every time that I would come back from school, I used to come to the airport, and I had to pick which parent I had to live with. It was extremely traumatic for me because my mother and father wouldn't even travel in the same car together. And I wanted them to be together and for me to have a normal vacation and to live with my parents, but even that seemed to be impossible.
For a lot of kids out there, Farhan, it's really difficult to come to terms with divorce. And in Indian society today, divorce is still considered such a bad word. Did you feel sort of discriminated against or looked at differently because you came from a broken home?
I think nobody really treated me differently. I think the only time I really felt any kind of anger was when at times in school. I mean, kids as cute and as sweet as they are, I mean, they can also be the most ruthless.
Absolutely, the most brutally honest.
Absolutely. So, I mean, if ever, there were certain occasions in school when you like get into a fight with another kid and they'd always know where to hit you where it hurts. And, they'd comment on something about your dad having left your mother or something like that.
What kind of comments would they pass?
No, I mean, just things like this, say like, how you don't know what you're talking about, because you come from here. It's just like, it's so random that it doesn't matter now when you
And
think
so
about it.
disconnected, doesn't actually make sense
Completely.
half the
I mean,
time,
it
but
has
it's just
nothing to
something
do
to
with
hit you on the head with.
Basically, yeah, do you know what I mean? It's like, shift slightly there, like, what nonsense your mum left. You know what I mean? It's like that random.
But at that age, today you can look back in hindsight and laugh about it. Lekin us waqt bahut hi traumatic hoga.
Yeah, of course it was. Also, I think because it's a thing that's recently happened, you're still coming to terms with it as a kid. You don't know why it happened, but you see the reality of it.
Farhan, this is a very funny incident. There was a time when it seemed that my mother and father were getting very close to each other. And dad had come over for dinner and they were kind of cozying up, and Siddharth and me, my brother and me, kind of stared at each other and went inside the room and said, this is disastrous. Can you imagine if they had to get back together and we became a normal family? And then, the routines that we see happening in normal homes, the whole khana khao, homework karo, and that typical, what we associate, typical family scenario, morning to night, same routines. We were so scared and we kept our fingers crossed and said, it can't work out, let's spoil it, let's do something. We don't want that as our reality. And there are so many kids actually in today's society that actually feel that way. Do you think it's healthy?
I think if you can see or bring yourself to just seeing humor in it or seeing just the lighter side of and moving on, I think that's the most important thing.
Well, we have some opinions on this.
Yeah.
Let's check them out.
Yeah, sure.
When my parents decided to get separated, it was more of a decision taken by me and my brother because we realized we couldn't stay with them any longer. It was a decision that we had to come to if we wanted to lead a peaceful life. Living in a family where there's constant, dispute, disharmony can quite affect you very badly. So I think I would have been probably not as independent as I am today. And even my brother, probably we wouldn't have seen as much of the world as we have seen today.
I looked after myself a lot more than I had to, which I would have had to if I had both my parents with me all the time. So I think that I'm a more whole person because of the separation, really. So no, I wouldn't have wanted it any different at all.
There's a very happy atmosphere around in my house, everybody's like really happy, a good support system. And like everything is pleasant basically, because if my mother and my father would have lived together, I think I would suffer much more. I would go through more of depressions and psychological problems.
Quite focused, huh? They're quite sure of what they're saying.
I have no idea what the atmosphere in their homes must have
Well,
been
it
before.
sounds like they were pretty
Yeah, but I
traumatized
guess.
in there. I mean, they
So-
sort of said, we have made that decision for our
Right.
parents, which means they felt that they needed to be in a position to take control.
Right.
Probably because, maybe sometimes parents feel they need to stay together for the sake of the kids.
That's the biggest area of whether we should divorce or whether we should not, I guess, is when the kids are involved. I think because it's very, I think the only time a person thinks selflessly is when it comes to their kids. And I think that's where, because if you were just a married couple and you were having issues, I don't think you'd even think twice, or it would even be like such a big discussion whether we should go our separate ways.
Do you think Samaj puts too much pressure on people? Bacche ka socho. I went through it when I got divorced. Everyone said, don't be selfish. Bacche ka socho. They will come out scarred. And I said, but I think they'll be more scarred if I have to stay in this environment. And don't you think that if two people are happy, the kids will remain kids. I'm not going to not be their mother. Farhan is not going to, not you. Alex doesn't also count Farhan. Farhan is still going to be their father. And the proof is that my kids today are the happiest, healthiest, most well-rounded individuals.
मुझे लगता है definitely, at least within our country, एक certain amount of pressure for families to stay together is there. We are very still rooted very much in a traditional society where people want everything to be like complete.
It's a very set formula.
Absolutely. And I think even for parents who realize that I think it might be better for each other and better for our kids if we are not together, and to make that step, if it's the right one to make at that point, I think is a brave thing to do, and it may be even at times be the correct thing to do. क्योंकि अगर आप बच्चे की आंखों से देखेंगी तो आपको दिखेगा कि okay, this is my mother, this is my father. Now, does this person love me? Yes, this person loves me. Does this man love me? Yes, this person loves me. And are they friends? Yes, they're friends. So at the end of the day, if it takes whatever for them to ensure that they're going to remain friends and love me as much as they can, I think that's the ideal scenario.
We get conditioned from childhood to believe in this happily ever after, prince meets princess,
Yeah.
and they ride away into the sunset, etc.
Right.
And then there's also this concept of this evil stepmother that comes into your life. So you have a stepmom, Shabana ji. How is it for you? What is your equation with her?
The equation that I have with her now is a healthy equation. I can't say that it was that from the word go. It took a very long time to get used to having another family member. I think initially started off with my dad making the effort of him wanting Zoya and me to meet her, to realize that, I mean, he's with somebody who he loves, and which is why he felt the need that he would like to be with somebody else.
What was your first impression of her?
Actually, I can't remember my first meeting with her, so it's difficult to remember my first impression. I remember, this is again something that she's told me very recently. She reminded me. She was like, one of the first few times that I met her, I think my dad used to be like, once in a while, come and stay in his house. So I think maybe once a week or once in 2 weeks, I'd go and stay at his house. And I woke up one morning and there was nobody there. Like, they were all asleep or they were in their rooms. And I wanted to have breakfast, and I was really hungry, and I didn't know who to tell because I felt like it's not my house. So I started crying. And the first person who came when she heard me crying, I guess, was Shabana. And she was like, why are you crying? I'm like, because I'm really hungry and I don't know who to speak to. And she was like, what do you want? I'll make it for you. So I think that's probably one of the first things that happened.
Food was the icebreaker.
Food was the icebreaker.
हम पहले बात कर रहे थे कि समाज इतनी pressure डालती है to stay together, to be a certain kind of family. And there are some people who truly believe that. They believe marriage is almost like a religion. And some people believe that everything is okay because it's for the kids. And people who make that decision, do you think it is the right decision to make?
I think it's too black or white to say whether it's right or wrong. मुझे लगता है कि अगर if two people are together, अगर उनके बच्चे हैं, अगर they are having problems, you should go to any extent and use whatever resource available to you to try and solve that problem. Once you've exhausted everything that you can possibly do, emotionally, mentally, physically, financially, whatever you could do to stay together, you exhaust all that, I think then you have no option but to actually to separate.
So what you're saying is don't bail out at the first sign of trouble.
Because you made that choice. Nobody forced you to get married. Nobody forced you to have kids.
Well, there are a lot of people that have different opinions on whether people should stay together for the sake of their families. Let's take a look.
Yeah.
डाइवोर्स लेंगे ऐसे तो शादी हो गई नहीं।
लेकिन अगर अलग भी रहे तो बच्चों का फ्यूचर क्या है?
बच्चे गलत रास्ते पे जा सकते हैं।
थोड़ा इंफेरिटी कॉम्प्लेक्स आ जाती है कि मेरे पिताजी ऐसे कि माँ अलग होती है तो मेरी मम्मी ऐसी है। बच्चे स्पॉइल हो जाते हैं सेपरेट रहने से।
It's always an issue about the children. You can't handle your children. You shouldn't produce children. At least you have the satisfaction of knowing that your parents are happy in different places. But yeah, they are happy, right?
The whole part of separation will also hurt them more. I mean, you ask a kid, who do you love more, like your dad or your mom? I mean, I'm sure they won't be able to answer that.
अगर 2 बच्चे हैं तो डिवाइड करके एक भाई एक लेके जाए और हो सके।
डेफिनेटली नो डिवोर्स। नहीं, डिवोर्स तो नहीं लेना चाहिए।
ट्राई करें, 99% डिवोर्स नहीं होना, लेकिन अगर उसके पास भी चांसेस नहीं है तो अगर दोनों का जमता ही नहीं है तो एक साथ रह के भी फायदा नहीं है।
नो डिवोर्स।
Divorce.
कौन से 2 बच्चे हैं, एक आप ले लो, एक उसको दे दो।
एक आप ले लो आगे।
You think that's a great
I love
solution?
बच्चे गलत रास्ते पे चले जाएंगे। They won't know their right from their
बिगड़
left.
जाएंगे। फरहान, दिल चाहता है में आपने डिम्पल कपाडिया का रोल जो था, इट वाज ऑफ अ डिवोर्सी एंड आपने उसको काफी ट्रैजिक स्टाइल में पोर्ट्रे किया था, द होल ड्रिंकिंग एंड ऑल ऑफ दैट केम टू द पिक्चर. व्हाई वाज दैट?
I mean, it's not something that I haven't witnessed or haven't read about or haven't seen before. The women who really, once divorced, lack a kind of support system, lack a structure. I think it's very reflective of that as well. I think it's the kind of generation, which is why I didn't want that character to be a younger character.
Lekin the younger lover was played by Akshay Khanna.
Right.
And in your movie, Dimple and Akshay don't really have a happy ending, वो मर जाती है. But don't you think that it could have been a happily ever after? क्योंकि आजकल the generation
Many people thought that was a very happy ending for Akshay.
On a serious note, I mean, in today's times, it's so acceptable for a younger man to have a relationship with an older woman and for it to go the distance. So why did you not explore that possibility and maybe make a statement with your movie?
Right, no, I mean, it actually was, it got into this whole thing of even like the whole alcohol issue. Do you know what I mean? Where, is drinking and portraying drinking as just a very normal thing without it having some serious consequences on your life and on your health. Such a cool thing to be doing. I think I wanted to also show that, where somebody is shattered by what life has done to her, and somebody who is on some level got a death wish of wanting to make, like she doesn't want to live life. If she can't meet her daughter, then what is she going to be doing? Sure, there's this man in her life, this young guy who loves her, who wants to be there for her, but she's somebody who appreciates that and respects that, but is not really interested. She's decided what she wants to do. She's decided she doesn't want to live, and that's really what her character was all about.
लक्ष्य में बमन एक बहुत ही सख्त और डिसिप्लिनेरियन फादर के रोल में नजर आए. Do you think that sort of draws again on your own relationship with your father?
नहीं, जहाँ तक मेरे फादर का डिसिप्लिन करने का तरीका था, वो सिर्फ 2 things in my life he's taught to discipline me. One was, please झूठ मत बोलो, and the second thing is, please चप्पल पहनो.
How did he enforce the 2? I want to know.
With the झूठ मत बोलो, he'd have very serious conversation because I used to lie a lot when I was a kid. I think that was probably something that this whole make-believe world that I was creating was maybe, I don't know, to do with what. But maybe it was like, I guess, the early seeds of what I'm doing now. So he used to always tell me like, you have to stop lying. And it's very interesting actually because once I was lying about something in school. And
something big or something trivial?
No, something really silly. I was telling people that I come to school in a helicopter, and so some kid, so एक दूसरा बच्चा घर चले गया और he started crying और कहा कि मुझे भी helicopter में जाना है. So my parents got called to school. So but just to cut a long story short, my father said, it's very bad. तुम बहुत झूठ बोलने लगो. It is not good. So I'm like, I'm not lying. I'm only fooling, right? And around 2 weeks back, Shakya came and told me something which I knew she was completely lying. I'm like, Shakya, you're lying. And she told me exactly the same thing. She said, I'm not lying, I'm fooling. Right? So it was quite a bizarre experience of sorts when you've seen exactly the same thing happen with you. And I'm doing exactly the same thing now with this.
Well, history repeats itself. That's what they say.
Yeah, but as long as it's only up till there, it's fine.
फरहान, आपने शादी बहुत छोटी उम्र में की है and research shows that children from divorced families either tend to marry very young or they're completely commitment phobic. आपकी क्या राय है?
I guess maybe if you sit down and think about the ratio and the percentages of how many kids of divorced parents marry early or don't get married at all, there must be definitely some kind of pattern emerging. But
why did you get married early?
It just seemed like the right thing to do at that point.
You just followed your heart.
Yeah, that both of us wanted to do that. We were really, really happy at that point, like just wanting to do this.
If you had to feel your marriage was not working out, would you consider a divorce?
It's difficult to say. I think if like I said, if it ever came to a point where both Odd and me realized that the differences that we have are completely unresolvable.
Well, some people just say, I'll compromise, I'll do anything, I'll fit into a pattern. Let's just make this smooth sailing, just to keep it a happy marriage.
No, I mean, you can't keep it a happy marriage if you're compromising constantly.
Some people are just very happy because they like the unit of a family.
No, I mean, it's not that ideal. I don't think you can just say that, oh, for the sake of one word, which is okay, because we want to be termed as a family, regardless of what's going on behind closed doors, let's just stay together and put on a happy face every time we step out. That's not possible. That's really, I think that's more damaging than actually like separating. I think it's really important that if there are issues, to resolve them, try your best to resolve them. And that's what Odd and me both think about it. I think if we ever do have any problems, we talk about it and try to solve it as quickly and as painlessly as we possibly can. And that's really both our views on this.
You know, when I was getting divorced from my husband, a lot of people said, yeah, you know, a lot of the very conservative people turned around and told, you know, his family that it was expected. She comes from a divorced family. Naturally, she would take a decision like this. They don't have staying power. People who come from divorced families are just more intolerant or more okay with the idea of moving on. They haven't been told what family value systems are. And of course, she wouldn't have a problem getting divorced herself. What do you think about statements like that?
I think they're uncalled for because A, it's not their concern. I think it's between two people who have decided to do something, and it really it shouldn't matter to anybody else. I think everybody has too much time to think about other people and a lot less time to think about themselves. I think it's very important to just focus on your own problems.
So divorces are not about value systems. They're about two people and whether they actually get along and they're willing to be in the confines of a marriage, given what it is or not.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a very personal thing to decide whether you want to stay with someone or not. I think you can seek help, you can seek counseling, you can do whatever you want. You can choose who you want to involve in your problems as opposed to other people forcing themselves onto you. And that's really where it lies. I think it's between two people, keeping in mind if at all there's children involved, how to deal with that as an issue. But I think for me personally, that's where the issue lies.
Oh, Farhan, thank you so much for being on the show and sharing your thoughts so openly. I think that, you know, when people who are successful come on and they speak with this kind of honesty, this kind of clarity, with these kind of viewpoints, I think that's what an icon is actually all about. And thank you so much for sharing this with us.
Thanks.